pets. Now let's talk about monk. The monk is a pleasure-loving fellow. He is fat like a lord, for he leads a relaxed life and passes his time in eating, in drinking, in merry-making. He loves hunting, whereas monks were not supposed to hunt. Hunting was this monk's favorite pastime. He is entirely misfit to his profession. His profession was he should have, behaved properly as a monk. He is fond of fine dresses. He wears fur-lined sleeves, gold pins, love knots. He did not hide his irritation with those who objected to his habits. He did not give a plugged hand with that text which said that hunters were not holy men. Chaucer's monk did not confine himself to his cloister. Cloisters were the closed rooms where monks used to meditate and sit. He disliked cloisters. He did not pore over books and did not work with his hands. He defied St. Augustine's directives where he says physical labor was necessary for monks. This monk did not like physical labor. He liked hunting though, but this was not physical labor. This monk did not believe that the world could be served either by hard study or hard labor. All his pleasures lay in tracking and hunting the hare, the rabbit. The worldliness of this monk is greatly emphasized by Chaucer. The monk's costumes and equipments are most lavish. Thus, the Chaucer's monk is a lively representation of his class, a realistic representation. But on the other hand, Chaucer gives some individual touches to add vitality to the portrait of the monk. Though the monk represents typifies the monks of the contemporary Europe, yet there are certain individualistic touches in his character. He has large, prominent eyes and a glistening, ruddy face. He is bald and stout, and his pomposity is manifest. He was not pale like a tormented ghost. He does not like to study the strict rules and discipline of the cloister. He likes hunting. He likes fine horses. He likes hounds in his stable. So this is a pleasure-loving monk. Now, let's talk about the friar, who was also a corrupt person belonging to the ecclesiastical order in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. The friar is a wanton, greedy and corrupt fellow who neglects his duties and does not bother about religion. He is fond of singing, he is fond of merrymaking, he is fond of drinking, he is fond of visiting inns and public places. St. Francis had ruled that friars of the order may beg for food in times of real hardships, and in this way preserve themselves to go on with their work. But for Chaucer's friar, religious begging has become a habit, a profitable proposition, because in this way he did not have to work hard for earning his livelihood. He begged from the neighboring houses. Chaucer says in an ironic manner that this friar had performed a large number of marriages for young women at his own cost. Why? Probably because that had been his, because they had been his mistresses. This friar was, we are told, authorized by papal license to hear confessions. And most sweetly would he hear confessions and grant an absolution. If got enough money from the sinner, he would boldly assert that the sinner was repentant for their sins, if he had been given enough money. This was the weakness with the friar. The friar's immorality went still further. He uses fair language to win the favor of the women. And where language failed, he tried to win them over with giving gifts like ornamental knives and brooch pins. The friar did not think it fit for a worthy man like him should become not acquainted with sick lepers. He did not like to be acquainted with sick lepers, with sick people, whereas it was the duty of the friars of his time to look after the sick lepers, the sick people. Such an association, the friar believed that the friars should not link themselves with the sick people. He thought it much better to deal with rich people and with sellers of food. But Chaucer has rendered to him some individual traits also, though this friar also represents the corrupt friars of his age, yet he has some individual traits also. This friar could sing well. This friar could play on fiddle. In the course of his playing on harp, his eyes twinkled in his head in the same way as do the stars on the frosty nights which twinkle. In the same manner, this friar's eyes also twinkled when he played on the fiddle. The friar has relations with the rich, franklin and worthy women. This friar is a rogue, a seducer of women and a scoundrel. He encourages sins by setting an easy solution of apology, misuses his authority and exploits others in terms of their sin. He demands money for absolving their sins. This friar was also an expert in the art of begging. He liked begging. And there is one another most famous, very famous character in the prologue, the wife of Bath, who is one of the Chaucer's most famous characters. At the outset, we are told that she was somewhat deaf. Subsequently, in the course of the Canterbury Tales, we learn that her deafness was the result of the blow which she received from her fifth husband. So in this way, Chaucer cleverly points out that this woman had 5 husbands. She had a great talent in cloth making. In the whole parish, there was no woman who dared to go to the collection box in the church before this wife of Bath. Why? Because this wife of Bath would get angry if any other woman did so. She had married 5 husbands besides having had lovers in her youth, a chain of lovers. Her character is fully analysed in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, and her character is also analysed in her own tale, where she reveals her own personality. She is a middle-aged woman with red complexion. She loves pleasure, and she is the greatest enemy of celibacy. Celibacy means bachelorhood. Now, she is looking for a sixth husband. She is shameless in her discourse of a relationship with her 5 husbands. She shamelessly reveals so many things about her relationships with her 5 different husbands. Her only aim in life is the gratification of her physical desire. She is coarse in her speech, but good at heart. In this way, we see that Chaucer is never critical about anybody.